I woke up that morning with a headache so sharp it felt like someone had stapled regret directly into my skull. But the real shock wasn't the pain. It was the unmistakable scent of expensive perfume that didn't belong to me drifting through the sunlit apartment. The kind of perfume worn by women who never let emotions show, unless they could turn them into box office hits. And that was the first moment I knew I had messed up in a way only Hollywood could properly dramatize. The second moment, when I rolled over and found a director's chair script marked with the initials A.R. Avery Rowan. The Avery Rowan, the most feared and revered female director in Los Angeles. The woman whose voice could silence a studio executive. The woman whose smile could resurrect dying careers. The woman whose movie soundtrack once made me cry so hard I had to pretend there was dust in my eye. And apparently, the woman I had drunkenly spent the night with. To be fair, it wasn't like I went out seeking chaos. Chaos simply had a knack for following me like a stray cat that had imprinted on my soul. My name is Lena Hart, 26, a script intern barely making rent, and definitely not someone who should be entangled with Hollywood royalty. But life rarely asks for permission before shoving you off a cliff. I sat up slowly, pressing a palm to my forehead, scanning the apartment for signs of, well, anything. Clothes were scattered. Shoes were in places shoes should never be. 2 wine glasses sat abandoned near the couch, one tipped over like it had given up on life. But Avery herself was nowhere in sight. For a moment, I felt a strange flicker of disappointment, followed by a stab of relief. Relief that I wouldn't have to face her. Relief that this could be a weird fever dream I'd never speak of again. Then I noticed the note on my kitchen counter, written in stunning, elegant handwriting that made my own cursive look like the scribbles of a toddler on a sugar high. Lena, last night was unexpected. We will talk. My entire soul shriveled. We will talk. In director language, that meant 2 things. 1, she remembered everything. And 2, I was in deep catastrophic trouble. I groaned, pressing my forehead to the cool surface of the counter. Why couldn't I have been a normal person? Why couldn't I have quietly stayed home studying screenwriting algorithms or watching rom-com reruns? Why did I have to stumble into the most surreal situation of my life with a woman whose high heels cost more than my car? But the truth was, even through the fog of panic, a tiny part of me replayed the blurry fragments of last night. The warm laughter. The way she leaned closer when she spoke. The softness in her eyes that contradicted every tabloid headline. A softness meant for no one but me in those stolen hours. And that terrified me more than anything. Because Avery Rowan was not someone you could casually feel something for. She was a storm disguised as a masterpiece. And I, foolish and breakable, was not built for storms. I tried to breathe, tried to swallow the anxiety clawing up my throat. But fate, as always, has impeccable timing. My phone buzzed. Unknown number. I knew even before opening it. Be at Rowan Studios. Office 3B. 1 hour. No signature. None needed. My life was officially over. I showered, changed, and bolted out the door, praying the universe would cut me even the smallest break. Spoiler alert. It did not. Traffic was a nightmare. My rideshare driver insisted on giving me unsolicited dating advice. And by the time I arrived at Rowan Studios, my heart was beating so violently I thought someone might call security. The studio felt larger than life. Posters of Avery's films lined the entrance hall, each one more intimidating than the last. Awards gleamed under spotlights. Employees rushed around with the kind of urgency only fear of creative genius could generate. I made my way to the elevator, hands trembling, mouth dry. Office 3B. A door that looked like it could lead to either salvation or doom. I knocked. Avery's voice sliced through the air. Come in. I opened the door. She was standing near the window, bathed in morning sunlight, her silhouette outlined like something out of an art film. Black slacks, crisp white shirt, dark hair loosely tied back. Calm. Controlled. Beautiful in a sharp, impossible way. Her eyes lifted to mine. And the world stopped. Not in the romantic fireworks way. No. More like the someone has just hit pause on your life and may now hit delete way. Lena, she said, her voice unreadable. Sit. I sat. Because defying her felt roughly equivalent to attempting tax fraud in front of the IRS. She studied me for a moment, arms crossed gently but not harshly. There was something almost contemplative in her expression, like she was piecing together a puzzle she hadn't intended to solve. "Do you remember much of last night?" she finally asked. Panic bubbled. "Some I managed. Not all." Her eyebrow lifted, amused and dangerous. "That's convenient." I swallowed. "Did we?" She let me drown in silence for several seconds. Then her lips curved into the faintest, most devastating smile. "Relax, Lena. Nothing happened that you need to panic about." Relief hit me so hard my vision blurred. But before I could breathe, she added, "Though you did insist on singing an off-key rendition of a Taylor Swift breakup song outside my building. I nearly died. Actually died. Oh my God. Oh my God. Please tell me I didn't." "You did," she replied, very passionately. I wish I could forget, but unfortunately I heard every note. Mortification consumed me. I considered leaping out of the window but remembered we were on the 3rd floor. However, Avery continued, her voice softening, "There was one thing from last night that concerns me more than your performance." My breath hitched. Concerns her? Me? "You said something," she said slowly, walking toward her desk, fingers brushing lightly against a stack of scripts. "Something I'm not sure you meant." My heart slammed against my ribs. "What did I say?" She looked at me then. Really looked. Like she could see straight through me. "You said you wished people would see you. Not just as the intern who fetches coffee, but as someone with stories worth telling." Heat crept up my face. I had no memory of saying that. But it sounded like something I would blurt out at the emotional peak of drunken vulnerability. "I'm sorry," I whispered. "I didn't mean to trouble you with that." Avery's gaze softened, unexpectedly gentle. "Lena, it wasn't trouble. It was honest. More honest than most people ever are with me." Silence stretched between us, warm and fragile. Then she sat across from me, her expression shifting into something decisive. "I have a proposition for you." I blinked. "A proposition?" Her lips quirked. "Not that kind. Despite your rather dramatic serenade, I'm choosing to remain professional." I wanted to crawl under the chair. Avery continued, "I want you to work with me. Directly. Not as an intern. As an assistant screenwriter." My breath stopped entirely. "I what?" She leaned forward slightly. "I saw your writing samples. You have potential. Raw, unpolished, but genuine. And last night I realized something. You have a perspective that deserves space. I can give you that space. If you want it." I stared at her, stunned, overwhelmed, terrified. This wasn't chaos. This was life-altering. This was the kind of offer people spent 10 years praying for. This was the kind of offer that didn't come without consequences. "Why me?" I whispered. Her eyes softened. "Because you remind me of someone I used to be. Before the world hardened me." And for a split second, something vulnerable flickered in her gaze. Something that made my chest ache. But before I could respond, she straightened. "You don't have to decide now. Take the day. Think." I stood on shaky legs. "Okay." As I walked toward the door, she called my name. "Lena." I turned. Her voice gentled almost imperceptibly. "Last night wasn't a mistake. But what happens next has to be a choice. Yours. Mine. Both." My heartbeat thudded in my ears. I couldn't speak. I could only nod. Then I stepped out of her office and into the hallway, where the world felt suddenly too bright, too loud, too real. And beneath the whirlwind of fear and confusion, something warm was blooming. Something dangerous. Something I wasn't sure I could stop. Because storms may break you, but sometimes they also bring the rain that lets you grow. And Avery Rowan was a storm I could already feel pulling me in. When I stepped outside the studio, the California sunlight felt harsher than usual, as if the entire world had suddenly become too sharp, too defined, too aware of my trembling thoughts. I stood there on the sidewalk, unsure whether I wanted to scream, cry, or laugh at the ridiculousness of my life. One drunken night with a powerful woman, and suddenly everything was shifting beneath my feet. My phone buzzed in my pocket. I thought it might be Avery again. Part of me hoped it was. Part of me prayed it wasn't. But it was just my best friend, Olivia. "Where are you?" "I made pancakes." Leave it to Olivia to choose violence this early in the morning. On my way I texted back, which was only partially a lie. I could pretend I was heading there instead of aimlessly wandering into a life crisis. I walked toward her apartment anyway, trying to organize the chaos spinning in my mind. Assistant screenwriter. Working directly with Avery Rowan. Seeing her every day. Standing next to her, talking to her, breathing in that intoxicating confidence she wore like a second skin. It was dangerous. She was dangerous, because she made me feel seen. By the time I reached Olivia's place, I'd replayed Avery's last words in my mind 100 times. Last night wasn't a mistake, but what happens next has to be a choice. A choice. I wasn't used to choices that held weight. Most of mine were more along the lines of deciding between instant noodles or cereal for dinner. But this was a crossroads. Olivia opened the door with a spatula in hand, wearing a pink robe and a look that suggested she already sensed drama approaching. "What did you do?" she demanded. I groaned. "What makes you think I did something? You have the energy of someone who accidentally proposed to a stranger in Vegas." "I didn't propose," I muttered, stepping inside. "But I may have." Sung outside a woman's building. Olivia froze. Lena Hart. Who was the woman? I dropped onto her couch like a dead plant. Avery Rowan. The spatula clattered to the floor. No. No, you did not. Olivia stared at me like she expected me to suddenly reveal it was all a prank. "Please tell me you hallucinated the entire thing." "I wish." "Oh my God." She sat beside me, gripping my shoulders. "Lena, that woman once fired a producer for breathing too loudly." "You serenaded her? With what song?" I buried my face in my hands. "A Taylor Swift breakup song." Olivia screamed into a pillow. "Why are you like this?" "I don't know." I groaned. "I didn't plan any of this." We sat in silence for a moment, or as much silence as the sizzle of her forgotten pancake batter allowed. "Okay," Olivia finally said, sighing. "Tell me everything. And don't you dare leave out any detail." So I did. I told her about waking up alone. The note. The summons to her office. The offer. The warning. The tension that sat in the air like unspoken electricity. Olivia listened with eyes wide as saucers. When I finished, she leaned back, exhaling dramatically. "Lena, this is not just chaos. This is premium, high-budget, Emmy-nominated chaos." I groaned again. "What do I do?" She didn't answer immediately. Instead, she studied me with an expression I rarely saw on her face, serious, thoughtful, almost protective. "You like her," she said softly. "No," I said too quickly. "Yes," she countered. "You're glowing in that terrified way you get when you care." I barely know her. "But you feel something." My silence betrayed me. Olivia sighed softly. "Lena, she's older, powerful, intimidating, and very, very not simple. This isn't a casual crush. If you walk into her world, you won't come out the same." "I know," I whispered. "Then the real question is..." Olivia tilted her head. "Do you want to stay the same?" The answer lodged itself in my throat. As I didn't. Not really. Not anymore. Despite Olivia's attempt to emotionally resuscitate me, the rest of the day passed in a haze of overthinking. I paced around my apartment until the floor probably considered filing a restraining order. I reheated leftovers I had no appetite for. I stared at my ceiling, imagining every possible outcome: good, bad, catastrophically cinematic. Close to 7 in the evening, I finally decided to walk. I needed air. Noise. Anything to drown out the storm in my chest. The city was alive, warm with dusk, murmuring with its usual symphony of traffic, chatter, and distant music. I wandered until my feet brought me to a small park near my neighborhood. Children were playing. Dogs were tugging at leashes. Couples were laughing on benches. And there somehow I sat on the swings like a kid avoiding her homework. My phone buzzed. Unknown number. But I knew. I hesitated only a moment before answering. "Lena." Avery's voice was smooth, steady, controlled as always, but with a softness that brushed against my ear like a whisper of warmth. "Hi," I breathed. "You didn't come back today," she said. Her words might have seemed neutral to anyone else, but I heard it. The subtle shift. The faint note of expectation. Or maybe I was imagining it. Wanting it. "I needed time," I said honestly. A pause. Not cold. Just measured. "I understand." For a moment, neither of us spoke. I listened to the quiet on her end, wondering where she was. Her home? Her car? Her office, lit by the glow of a desk lamp in her restless ambition? "Are you okay?" she asked suddenly. The question startled me. It wasn't professional. It wasn't distant. It was personal, direct, and terrifying in its sincerity. "I don't know," I admitted. "This is all. A lot." "I know," she murmured. "It wasn't fair of me to drop that offer on you so abruptly." "You had every right," I said. "Maybe. But that doesn't mean it was the right way to approach you." My chest tightened. Avery Rowan, the woman who controlled every room she walked into, was taking responsibility for something. It disarmed me more than her intensity ever had. "Where are you right now?" she asked. "The park on Silverwood." Silence followed, long enough that I thought the call had dropped. "I'll be there in 10 minutes, she said. "What?" I blinked. "Avery, you don't need to," but she had already hung up. I stared at my phone, heart racing. She was coming here? To me? In person? I didn't know whether to run or fix my hair or throw myself into traffic. 10 minutes later, headlights washed over the park entrance. A sleek black car pulled up, doors tinted but unmistakably expensive. And then she stepped out. Avery Rowan, wearing a midnight blue coat, hair falling loosely around her shoulders, her expression unreadable but unmistakably focused in me. The world around us blurred. The laughter, the traffic, the city lights, everything softened into background noise. She walked toward me slowly, deliberately, her presence a gravity that pulled my entire being into orbit. "You came," I said stupidly. "You sounded like you needed someone," she replied simply. It was the most devastatingly gentle thing she could have said. She sat on the swing next to mine, the metal chains creaking softly. I half expected her to look impossibly out of place, but she didn't. Somehow she matched the moment. "What's scaring you most?" she asked quietly. "You," I whispered without thinking. Her breath caught just slightly. "Me. You're intimidating." "That I am," she acknowledged with a faint smile. "And complicated. Also true. And you make me feel things I don't know how to deal with." That silenced her. She didn't look smug, or amused, or self-satisfied. She looked shaken, gently, softly, humanly. "Lena," she said, voice low, "I don't want to make this harder for you." "But you are," I said, meeting her eyes. And in her gaze something flickered, something fragile, rare and real. "I know," she whispered. "I'm trying not to. Believe me." We sat there, swing to swing, breath to breath. She exhaled slowly. "Tell me what you want, and I'll respect it." I swallowed hard. "I want to accept your offer." Her eyes softened, warm as dusk sunlight. "But I'm terrified," I added. "Good," she said. "Fear means you care." I let out a trembling breath. "And us? Is that something we're pretending didn't happen?" Her gaze locked onto mine, deep and steady. "No," she said softly. "I'm not pretending. But I'm also not rushing you. Whatever we are, whatever we could bite needs to grow, not explode." My heart fluttered painfully. "But if you choose to step into my world," she continued, her voice lowering, "I need you to understand something." "What?" I breathed. "Once I let someone in, I don't let go easily." I felt those words like a hand closing gently around mine. Not possessive, not demanding, just honest. And maybe that was what scared me most. Not her power, not her fame, but her capacity to care deeply, fiercely, quietly. And the terrifying truth that I already wanted to be someone she cared for. I whispered, "I'm willing to try." Her smile was soft, small, and heartbreakingly beautiful. "Then we start tomorrow," she said. "Professionally. And personally?" I asked before my brain could stop me. She looked at me, her eyes warm, intense, impossible to look away from. "Personally," she said, "we take one step at a time." The night settled around us. A gentle breeze rustled the leaves. Somewhere nearby a dog barked. Life went on. But between us something had shifted. Something delicate. Something dangerous. Something undeniably real. As we walked back to her car, she didn't touch me. But her presence wrapped around me like warmth I didn't know I craved. And when she opened the passenger door for me, her hand brushed mine just barely. Enough to send a tremor through my entire body. Enough to tell me that whatever this was, whatever it would become, it had already begun. The next few weeks unfolded in ways I could never have predicted. Working with Avery was like stepping into the eye of a hurricane that coincidentally smelled like bergamot and ambition. She challenged me, pushed me, questioned every word I wrote until I learned to question myself first. And yet, for every difficult moment, there was another that felt strangely gentle. A quiet smile when she caught me staring at the script too long. A soft hum whenever she read a line she liked. A subtle shift in her posture whenever she stood near me, as if her body recognized something her mind wasn't ready to fully admit. We were dancing on a thin line, not professional enough to be distant, not personal enough to be lovers. But there was a warmth between us, constant and unspoken, like a candle burning quietly in a room no one else could see. One late evening, after a particularly long revision session, Avery leaned back in her chair, rubbing her temples. "You're unusually quiet tonight," she murmured. I hesitated. "I'm thinking." "That's dangerous," she teased with a faint smile. "For both of us." "Maybe," I admitted. "But I can't help it." Her eyes lifted to mine, patient and searching. "What's on your mind?" "You," I whispered before I could stop myself. Avery stilled. Not dramatically. Not theatrically. Just a subtle internal shift, like her heartbeat paused for a single stunned moment. "Oh," she breathed. It wasn't surprise. It wasn't denial. It was something much more vulnerable. I swallowed hard. "I know we said one step at a time, but I need to know where we're stepping." Avery pushed her chair back slowly and stood, walking toward me with the kind of deliberate calm that made my pulse trip. When she stopped in front of me, the air between us hummed with quiet tension. "Lena," she said softly, "I care about you. More than I intended. More than I should." My breath caught. "But I'm still afraid," she admitted. "Not of you. Of the ways I could hurt you without meaning to." I shook my head. "I'm not fragile. You're human," she said gently. "And that matters more." She sat beside me, turning so we were face to face. "Tell me what you want, not what you think I want to hear." I took a shaky breath. "I want whatever that means. However long it takes. However complicated it might be." Avery's expression softened, her eyes warming in a way that felt like sunrise breaking through clouds. "I want that too," she whispered. And for the first time she reached for my hand. Her fingers were warm, steady, and careful, as if she was holding something rare. Something she didn't want to break. It wasn't dramatic. It wasn't explosive. It wasn't a Hollywood confession with rain or orchestral music. It was better. It was honest. In the following days, nothing changed. And yet everything did. We still work side by side, challenging each other, pushing for better lines, better scenes, better storytelling. But now there was a new quietness between us, a shared space that belonged only to us, invisible to everyone else. Sometimes she would hand me notes and let her fingers linger just a second longer. Sometimes I'd catch her watching me when she thought I wasn't looking. Sometimes we'd walk out of the studio together, and she'd stand a little closer than she needed to. It wasn't grand. It wasn't loud. But it was real. And that was enough. One evening, after a long week of filming updates and script rewrites, Avery asked if I wanted to take a walk. Just a walk. No conversations about work. No tension. No expectations. The city was cool. The sky painted with streaks of orange and purple. Avery walked beside me, hands tucked into her coat pockets. "You know," she said quietly, "I spent years believing love was a distraction." "From what?" "From everything. From the work. From the world. From who I needed to be." "And now?" I asked softly. Avery looked at me, her eyes warm and steady. "Now I think it might be the one thing that keeps me human." My chest tightened with something tender and overwhelming. "You don't have to be perfect with me," I whispered. "I know," she said. "That's the terrifying part." We stopped near a street corner illuminated by soft golden lights. And there, in the gentle glow of the city, she took my hand again. Not carefully this time. Not hesitantly. But with quiet certainty. "Lena," she said, her voice barely above a breath, "I'm choosing this. You. Whatever we become." My heart felt too full for my own body. I'm choosing it too, I whispered. And in that moment it didn't matter that she was powerful and intimidating. It didn't matter that our world was messy and unpredictable. It didn't matter that we had both stepped into something neither of us fully understood. What mattered was the way she held my hand. Warm, steady, present. As if she finally allowed herself to feel what she had been holding back. A gentle smile touched her lips, rare, vulnerable, real. Then, she murmured, let's see where this story takes us. And under the soft glow of American city lights, surrounded by the hum of passing traffic and the quiet beating of two unsteady hearts, we walked forward together step by step, hand in hand, hopeful and whole. Not a perfect ending, not a dramatic one, but a beginning. One carved from honesty, softness, and the fragile courage of two women learning how to love without fear. A beginning that felt finally like home. Thank you for listening. Like and subscribe to get notifications about next videos.